Hi, I'm George. Welcome to Mad EV. Today's topic, weirdly, it's about smartphone. If I told you a smartphone company is going to make its own cars, which one comes to your mind first? Is it Samsung Motors, which started mass producing cars more than 2 decades ago, but was eventually bought by Renault? Is it Apple's Project Titan, which has drawn huge attention but is still not officially acknowledged? Or is it Sony, which made 2 prototypes and formed joint venture with Honda? Yes, they all seem legit, but none of them are dedicated enough. When it comes to smartphones and cars, companies in China are the most radical ones. We got Huawei, which has a unique indirect approach of super supplier plus super dealer, and Xiaomi, which plans to build cars solely on its own, and it may be China's last new force in the industry. So in this video, the final episode on EV evolution in China, let me tell you the new rule of smartphone companies. In some ways, the reason Huawei and Xiaomi are making cars is because they have a gun pointed at their heads. After 2019, Huawei suffered 4 rounds of US sanctions, and its consumer electronics, mostly smartphones, suffered a heavy blow. So it must look for a new field with a large revenue and volume to make up for the losses. Cars may be their only answer. As a result, we saw Huawei going all out on the car market over the following years through the supplier mode, the HI mode of intelligent solution, and the smart selection mode of full involvement in all aspects except manufacturing. Yu Chengdong, Huawei's executive director, has been making himself seen in many major auto forums and summits for the past 2 years, already looking like a head of a car company. Huawei's original 1+8+N strategy around the seamless AI life has recently been replaced by a car +8+N strategy, and the original one refers exactly to the smartphone. In contrast, the gun pointing at Xiaomi is held by Lei Jun, its own co-founder and chairman. He believes that the smart product ecosystem of smartphones, smart home, and smart office can be much more promising and expandable if it has smart car. And when is a better time to build cars than right now? So starting from March 2021, when it announced its entry, Xiaomi's plan has been in full swing. The first model, a mid-size 4-door coupe, is expected to be launched in 2024. Clearly, both Huawei and Xiaomi saw the opportunity that lies in the integration of smartphones and smart cars. Because a smart car that lacks the addition of a smartphone ecosystem is not smart enough, and a multi-terminal interconnection network that lacks smart cars will not be considered complete. Nowadays, people can't live without a smartphone, which is basically a smart terminal device that people carry around all day and has to be on 24/7. So good phone companies must be good at creating user experience and developing software, and these are exactly what most of the traditional car companies lack. The traditional auto industry is actually a to-be-heavy manufacturing industry. Most car makers define and build a driving-focused transporting tool based on their engineering thinking. Most of their revenue comes from hardware, and they don't have the concept of creating an ecosystem. In the S-car era, what automakers are best at is supply chain integration and hardware manufacturing. But the smartphone industry is a typical B2C industry. Looking at it, there's only 6 or 7 major brands left in the global smartphone market. Each of them has exceptional skills at understanding users, developing software, and building product ecosystem. And now, with the mechanical parts being the most basic stuff in a car, to get further development, one has to rely on what most traditional car makers can't do: the software, cloud services, E&E structure, and so on, as well as the related concepts, processes, systems, and culture. If smartphone makers can integrate their new ability and new systems to the automotive engineering, they will hold a significant edge over traditional car makers. Of course, regardless of any car design changes, the auto industry is still a heavy manufacturing industry. so the capabilities of traditional car makers are still necessary. The most worrying thing about smartphone companies building cars is that they underestimate the complexity of the auto industry, such as the much bigger supply chain, the incredibly harsh product standards, and the nature of being a borderless money pit. Take the mighty Apple for example. They have cutting-edge technology, a strong brand appeal, a vast user base, nearly infinite fund, a comprehensive thinking on integrating hardware, software, and services, and a keen focus on the combination of technology and humanity. Despite all these strengths, since their car project in 2015, there has been no substantial progress. This might be that Apple was struggling to assemble the right team, find the right talents, and correct the mindset. So these are what Xiaomi and Huawei most concerned about when entering the auto industry. Huawei chose to focus on smart technologies and user experience rather than asset-intensive heavy manufacturing. Xiaomi is making cars without any external investments, and not to mention that both companies are led by their core leaders who clearly know that the autonomous driving is the next game changer. And they are fully aware that this is a high-stake gamble. Winning means securing a spot in the trillion-dollar business, while losing could result in a much heavier loss than just being left out in the cold. For more than a century, cars have always been a transportation, and for more than half a century, mobile phones have mostly been a message center. Whether it's a smoky engine or the radio signals, both has its rather disgraceful analog era. But now, with everything undergoing a radical digital transformation, these two super smart devices that are closely connected with people, integration is inevitable. So in the future, the competition between car makers and phone makers will surely be ecosystem focused. Major phone companies will make their move on the auto market, and top car companies will also be eyeing on the smartphone market, which means the fusion of smartphones and cars will kick off in China from 2023.